Hi friends, I'm Scott from Sharky's Greenhouses and Beat Your Neighbor Fertilizer. Today we're taking a look at a combination planter and we're going to be talking about deadheading and cleaning up. So this is a pretty good mix of all different types of flowers, and they have different care elements and different ways that we need to go about cleaning them up or deadheading them. So I'm just going to briefly talk a little bit about what we all have in this planter. So I'm going to start with the easy one first. This tall grass-like is juncus, and it's just, that's all it does. It requires no maintenance, so I'm not going to do anything with the juncus. But we have geraniums, we have petunias, we have this white fanflower, also known as scaevola, and then we have verbena, and we have both white verbena and we have red verbena. Now let's talk about a little bit of the deadheading and the care and how to go about that. So with the geraniums, you know that I've talked about before in our cleaning up geranium videos, geraniums need to be cleaned up. You have to clean them up. The worst thing in the world is a geranium hanging basket or a geranium planter that you just leave it go because it looks horrible. Geraniums need to be cleaned up. Now sometimes there's light cleaning, and what I mean by that is you can see on this flower it still has some life to it, and there's still some buds here, so it still has some life, but I want to get rid of some of those petals that are spent, and I'm just going to pick them out like this. And that way this whole bloom can stay and leave us that color. But once we have ones that are done, say like back here, this whole bloom is spent, and the way that I'm going to take this whole thing off is I'm not just going to pluck it right behind the flower. I'm going to take that stem all the way down, and I'm going to go right to the main stem, and I'm going to clip it off. So we're going to take this whole thing out because what we don't want is a geranium rotting down and infecting the rest of the plant. So we want to get rid of this whole thing once it's spent. Moving on to the petunias. Now you know that I'm not a fan of deadheading petunias, and most petunias that I have in my yard I don't deadhead at all because I have mostly super petunias. Super petunias you do not need to deadhead. These are not super petunias though. So we will need to periodically go through some of these, and especially this purple color, and the way you can really tell is the new fresh blooms are really that dark, rich color of purple. And the ones that are at the end of their life are these really light colored purple. So deadheading a petunia is not just pulling out that bloom. We need to go through behind it and pluck off and snip part of this green stem, because what we don't want is this to produce its bloom and then it tries to go to seed with this little green, there's a little pod in here, and that's trying to produce seed, and it'll throw little seeds. We don't want it to do that. We want it to continue to blossom. So we're going to take that whole thing right on off. So again, I'm going to go in here, and some of these blooms that are spent, I can tell by the color, that real light color. When I deadhead them, I'm going to take that whole thing and nip it off right behind the blossom, but I'm also catching some of that green stem. So that's what the petunias, that's all we need. The easy one is the fanflower or the scaevola. There's really very, very little cleanup with the fanflower. It just lasts and lasts and lasts all summer. But once in a while, you'll find one that needs to be cleaned up and where it's kind of spent. And you're not hurting anything if you do clean it up. So I'm just gonna nip it off right in that green area again. And that's all we really needed to do with the fanflower. Moving on to one of the harder ones, that is the verbena. So I've got this white and red verbena, and it's pretty unsightly here. You can tell that I've let it go way too far beyond, and now it's all spent. So I have to go through and heavily clean this up, and it's going to take some time to clean it up. So I'm clipping off right behind, again, that little cluster of flowers and getting rid of all this. And what we tell our customers with the verbena, a great way to remember when to clean up your verbena is that Fertilizer Friday. You know, that day that you're fertilizing with the Beat Your Neighbor fertilizer, that once a week. Fertilizer Friday is a great way to remember also not just to fertilize your plants and flowers, but also go through and clean up, if you have verbena, go through and clean up that verbena, because then you have always nice fresh verbena coming along. Don't let it go for 2 or 3 weeks and then all of a sudden those flowers are spent and you have no no color. So it's a good thing to stay on top of it and clean up that verbena so you always have a nice fresh verbena. And then you're remembering to also fertilize once a week with the Beat Your Neighbor fertilizer. Keep this blooming and looking great. So those are a few of the tips for going through and deadheading geraniums, petunias, scaevola, and the verbena, and with your combination planters. Hey, if you're liking our videos, please be sure to give us a thumbs up and follow us on Facebook, and then head on over to us and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we have hundreds of how-to videos there. And then you can go to our beatyourneighbor.com website where we have our tips and tricks and our blog articles, and of course our Beat Your Neighbor fertilizer. That's all over at beatyourneighbor.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.